Bone Soup by Cambria Evans. Being nothing more than skin and bone, Finnegan had to live by his wits. He had no family or house to haunt, but he was known across the land for having a ravenous appetite. Everyone knew that wherever Finnegan went, he always brought his eating stool, his eating spoon, and his gigantic eating mouth. One Halloween, Finnegan's travels took him through a barren land. What a lovely place, he thought. I'm sure I can find a Halloween feast here. But as Finnegan grew closer to a town, a witch passed by. Happy Hallows Night, he said. Do you know where the feast is? The witch took one look at Finnegan and quickly flew away. Warning, beware, the eater. Back in town, the witch told the beast told the zombies told the mummy, and before you knew it, the entire town was talking about the impending arrival of Finnegan the Eater. Here comes Finnegan. We don't need a big mouth like that. We have barely enough for ourselves. I've heard he's worse than a plague of locusts. Who is Finnegan? In a panic, the witch booby-trapped her jars of eyeballs. The beast looked at his bat wings in a cupboard. The zombie put their frog legs in the cellar. And the mommy and the town's creatures hid all they had to eat. When poor, ever-hungry Finnegan came to town, he was surprised that it looked empty, but even more surprised that there was no feast. So Finnegan knocked on the witch's door first. Could you spare a bit of food? He called out. I have nothing for you, the witch shrieked. Next, Finnegan tried the beast's door. Can you spare some wormy cheese and bread for a simple traveler? He asked. A simple traveler? The beast said. I know who you are. I have just enough for myself and none to spare. Be gone. At the third door, Finnegan had barely opened his mouth when the zombies all yelled, Go away! We have no food for you. At the mummy's door, the answer was the same. And so went through the whole town, knocking on doors and windows, but not a body or soul had any food for Finnegan. Hello? Could you spare? Anyone home? Undaunted, Finnegan collected wood from the forest and built a fire in the middle of the town square. He then filled the town's largest cauldron with water and set it to boil. After waiting a time, Finnegan ceremoniously opened his cloak. He took out a magnificent piece of bone, so old that the edges were dry and splintered, and with a toothy grin, he dropped it right into the cauldron. Finnegan stirred the mixture, singing, Bone soup is what I make, a magical bone is all it takes. Boil it long and add some spice. Bone soup tastes so very nice. One by one, the town creatures opened their doors and walked towards Finnegan and his fire. What are you singing about? What are you boiling? What a dry old bone. You can't make soup out of that. Any ghoul knows as well. Finnegan smiled. Well, then I must not be a ghoul, for I am making such a soup. The little werewolf crouched at Finnegan's side. I've never heard of bone soup before, but I think I like it. In some places I have traveled, bone soup is considered a delicacy, Finnegan explained. Besides, this is no ordinary bone. It's magic. He tasted the broth again and sighed. If only there were some stewed eyeballs. With eyeballs, the soup would be very tasty. The little werewolf tugged at Finnegan's cloak. The witch has a jar of those. I know she does. All the villagers stared at the witch, and her face turned an even brighter shade of green. Yes, I do, she stammered. But they're imported. The villagers stared at the witch until finally she fetched some from her stash. The eyeballs were fabulously addition to the soup, but soon Finnegan looked wistful. If only this had some bat wings. Can you just imagine what flavor they would add? The little werewolf tugged at Finnegan's side. The beast has a cupboard full of those. I saw them myself. Embarrassed, the beast fetched an entire box of bat wings. The wings were added, and just as Finnegan had said, their flavor was wonderful. Finnegan continued to stir the soup, but he looked longingly into the cauldron. Now, if only we had frog legs, this soup would be fit for a king. The little werewolf tugged once more at Finnegan's cloak. The zombies have a cellar filled with them. Just ask them. Before Finnegan could ask, the zombie children had fetched all the frog legs they could carry. The frog legs were stirred into the broth, and soon the cauldron was also boiling with toenail clippings, spider eggs, dried mouse droppings, and dandelions. The final dusting of slime and sludge. The soup was declared ready. Of course the soup is wonderful alone, said Finnegan, but it takes only wormy cheese, bread, and company to make a true Halloween feast. Go, bring your cheese, bread, and bowls, so we can share this bone soup together. What fabulous soup! Such good flavor! Truly fit for a king. To think it was all made from a magic bone. And so it was that Finnegan got his Halloween feast after all. With a final wave to the werewolf, Finnegan quickly left with his eating stool, his eating spoon, and his gigantic smiling mouth.